And welcome into my channel, the Houston Texans, with their second win of the season as they take down the very disappointing Tennessee Titans. We're going to talk about it all here in a short amount of time. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas to all of you. I'm Cody Stoots. If you haven't caught any of my work on the radio or here on YouTube, well, I appreciate you tuning in today and checking this one out. We're going to talk all about this Texans victory over the Titans. 19-14. It wasn't easy. The Texans are able to get it done. We'll talk about all the various elements of this, what it means long-term for the team, and the various things that are coming out of this game that are big positives and some of the negatives for this Texans team. All right, Texans, Titans. This one got delayed an hour before it got kicked off, and then it looked very early on like it was going to be the Derrick Henry show. Yet again, Derrick Henry had that early fantastic run for a touchdown, 48 yards on that run for Derrick Henry. After that, though, he got bottled up a little bit. He even had a rare Derrick Henry fumble. So a good job by the Texans defense. Yes, they looked bad on that one, but a good job for the rest of the game to bottle up Derrick Henry. Yes, it's a run-forward situation for the Tennessee Titans, but the defense played well. There have been long stretches now, where the defense has played really well for Lovie Smith. Now, it hasn't been a full game the whole way through, although this is pretty close to one of their better performances. So a good job by the defense. This was going to be a game where it was all about how many points can the Texans score, and will the Titans be able to keep pace with them. Well, the Texans were able to put a few points on the board in the first half. They take the lead in the halftime. Some disappointing plays here or there. This Driscoll cat thing has got to go. It's no good. But some disappointing plays here or there from the offense. Davis Mills, he looked like pre-benching Davis Mills, and then he came back late in the game and looked like the best version of Davis Mills that we've seen to this point. That touchdown drive to take the lead was so good by Davis Mills. It was some of the best football that he's ever played in his life. It was a simple 5-play, nearly 75-yard drive. It leads to the touchdown. Would have loved the 2-point conversion to get there, just so the Texans were a little bit more comfortable, and maybe there was an overtime situation. We get a little bonus football here, a little extra present of football here on Christmas Eve. That wasn't the case. The defense holds on. They're able to get that interception from Malik Willis, burn a little bit of clock, force the timeouts to come off of the board, and then the Titans can't get it done there in that last one. I did think the defense sort of tackled a wide receiver in the end zone, but the refs aren't going to call a pass interference in the end zone on that Hail Mary. Certainly not. Davis Mills, up and down performance, but again, that final drive where he hits a Phillip Dorsett, where he hits an Amari Rodgers, those are really nice plays from Davis Mills, and that's something that he can be pretty proud of here late in the season. All right, let's put this win into context here. I know there were a lot of Texans fans that were asking for losses to finish the year. Right now, I want to take a second to ask you for a subscribe. Please subscribe below, rate, and comment on this video. We'll interact over Christmas. I hope you're having a fantastic holiday and a Merry Christmas. I'm going to ask you for a subscribe as an early Christmas present, and hopefully I can give you the present of some fun content on this channel. Let's talk about what this means big picture. 2 games left, a half-game lead over the Chicago Bears for the top spot in the NFL draft in 2023. Now, the Texans, by virtue of that tie, are in a little bit of trouble if they win another game. They're going to lose the #1 overall pick. I know the people in the building want a victory. I know the people in the building are hoping for a little bit more success here at the end, but I know a lot of Texans fans, myself included, really want to see the team with the #1 overall pick, so there's not a lot of posturing. Nobody's jumping in front of you for Bryce Young to get the #1 quarterback off the board. It would be nice for the future of the franchise to get themselves the #1 overall pick and sort of cement their spot in the draft order. So I mentioned it, a half game ahead of Chicago. The Texans have 2 games left. They have 2 games against 2 teams that don't really need a victory. And why do I say that? Well, the Jaguars just need to have the same record as the Tennessee Titans and beat them in the final game of the season to make the playoffs. So a victory here against the Texans doesn't do really anything for Jacksonville. But Jacksonville's playing well, and I would assume they want to hit that final game of the season in rhythm. So I would think that's going to be a tough one for the Texans at home. And then on the road against the Colts, a team that probably is going to quit here pretty soon on the season, I would think that that's going to be a little bit easier for the Texans, and that's not a very good football team. Now, the Bears have 2 division games left as well, at Detroit versus Minnesota. Now, here's the funny thing about the Minnesota situation. They may be in full-on bench mode, rest mode. They could have the number 2 spot locked up by the final week of the season. If Minnesota has the final spot, or the number 2 spot locked up, then there's no reason to play a bunch of their players. Okay, get everybody ready for the next week, give everybody a bit of a rest. Maybe that gives the Chicago Bears a little bit of juice there into the final game of the season. Remember, they're trying to find themselves with some momentum for Justin Fields. Now, obviously, Chicago, with a victory at any point, would decrease their draft pick. They would go higher instead of lower if they were able to win. But a Vikings team that's sitting most of their players at the end of the season, that's a team that Chicago should, and I would think could be able to beat. So, again, Texans with 2 wins, Bears with 3 wins, okay? A couple of Texans losses, obviously the number 1 overall pick. A Bears victory and a Texans loss gets the Texans the number 1 overall selection in the 2023 NFL Draft as well. So, monitoring those over the next 2 weeks to see exactly where the Texans are going to end up in the draft pick order. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate you spending a little bit of time right here around the holidays. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas to you and your family. I hope you got everything, or hope you're getting everything that you want for Christmas. If you celebrate another holiday, I hope you got everything you wanted. And if you're watching this after Christmas, I hope you got everything that you wanted as well. Lovie Smith and this Texans team, 3 weeks in a row. Moral victory, real victory for this Texans team. This is something to monitor down the stretch here. I don't believe the Texans want to fire another coach after just 1 year. I don't believe they want to spend a bunch of money getting rid of Lovie Smith and a bunch of his coaches. I do know that there is going to be a very hard argument that Lovie Smith put enough together in the totality of his season to be the head coach for this team going forward. Okay, it's the totality of the season that Lovie Smith should be judged on, not the past 3 games, and certainly not these final 2 games where the Texans could be competitive, could win some football games. If they finish with 3 straight wins to find themselves with 4 victories, I do believe Lovie Smith will be back. I don't think that it's necessarily that he has to win these games to get his job back. I suppose some moral victories here towards the back end of the season could have Lovie Smith back. But Lovie Smith, I would think, as the performances that are positive here at the back end of the season and the defense plays better, I would think Lovie Smith is stacking up ammunition to have a good argument to be back as the Texans head football coach. I know that's less exciting for everybody. I would think that no matter what happens in these final weeks, the Texans are going to make a change at quarterback. The Texans are going to make a change on the offensive side of the ball as well. So I'll be very interested to see exactly what the Texans are capable of doing with Lovie Smith in these final 2 weeks, and do those things in those final 2 games play into Lovie Smith being able to keep his job. So, to summarize the performance, to summarize Tennessee a little bit today, as we just have a little short video here on Christmas Eve. Appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate you watching this long. And if you have watched this long, I'd certainly love a subscribe down below. Thumbs up this video, comment. I love to interact in the comments, have some big conversations. We'll put together some mailbag stuff ahead of the new year. There's going to be a lot of original content here on the channel, as well as some of the highlights and some of the best stuff from the Wheelhouse radio program that I host on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5 Monday through Friday. We'll be back in the new year for some fun radio stuff, so I hope you find us there as well. So recap. Fantastic performance by the defense against Derrick Henry after that big Derrick Henry drive. They made it tough on him. They made it tough on that Titans offensive line, and they played really well. And obviously, that's not a super talented Titans offense that they're going against, but you play who you play, you have success how you have success, and they took care of business on defense. Davis Mills, a couple of nice spots in this game. He found Brandon Cooks on a play that got wiped away. He found Brandon Cooks for a touchdown. Amari Rodgers down the sideline, a couple of passes to Philip Dorsett over on the sideline as well. And oh, by the way, Luck was on his side, as Luck was not on his side last week. Luck was on his side this week as Davis Mills fumbles the ball into the end zone and the ball just finds Rex Burkhead. So a positive for him. One of the best drives of his NFL career, that 5-play, 73-yard drive to take the lead against Tennessee. Might be too little too late for Davis Mills. Where does this leave the Texans in the quest for the number 1 overall pick? They're still in the top spot for the 2023 draft, but there's less wiggle room and less room for victories on this Texans schedule. 2 games. They have a game at home against Jacksonville, on the road against the Indianapolis Colts, and if they win either of those games, they will fall out of the top spot in the 2023 draft order. The Chicago Bears are who they are competing with. The Bears have 2 division games against the Lions and the Vikings in the final week. We're rooting for the Vikings to sit everybody that final week and the Bears to have an opportunity to beat the Vikings in week 18 of the season and find themselves with a victory that would secure the Houston Texans the number 1 overall pick. And lastly, I don't know that Lovie Smith has done enough in just 3 weeks' time to save his job. But with 2 weeks remaining and 2 moral victories to go along with a real victory, Lovie Smith is building some momentum. Each of these successful performances makes it more and more difficult to move on from Smith as the 1-year-only head coach. So that's what we have coming out of the Titans game, where the Texans get a big victory. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate all your time. Appreciate anybody who watches on here or listens on the radio. I hope that you're having a fantastic finish to your year and a great holiday season, however you're celebrating. If you've had to work this time, we certainly appreciate you putting in the time and effort in whatever job you do to take care of those of us who are celebrating the holiday season. Plenty more before the new year, plenty more on this Texans team and Houston sports right here on this channel. I'm Cody Stoots. Appreciate your time, appreciate your subscribes, appreciate your likes, your thumbs up, your comments, and all that great stuff. And we'll talk to you again here soon here on the channel.